It is very important about the top hats, said Winston patiently. The point is, these capitalists, they and a few lawyers and priests and so forth who lived on them, were the lords of the earth. Everything existed for their benefit. You, the ordinary people, the workers, were their slaves. They could do what they liked with you. They could ship you off to Canada like cattle. They could sleep with your daughters if they chose. The heresy of heresies was common sense. And what was terrifying was not that they would kill you for thinking otherwise, but that they might be right. For after all, how do we know that two and two make four? Or that the force of gravity works? Or that the past is unchangeable? If both the past and the external world exist only in the mind, and if the mind itself is controllable, what then? By making him suffer, obedience is not enough. Unless he is suffering, how can you be sure that he is obeying your will and not his own? Power is in inflicting pain and humiliation. Power is in tearing minds to pieces and putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing. Do you begin to see then what kind of world we are creating? It is the exact opposite of the stupid hedonistic utopias that the old reformers imagined. A world of fear and treachery and torment, a world of trampling and being trampled upon, a world which will grow not less but more merciless as it refines itself. Progress in our world will be progress towards more pain. Alone, free, the human being is always defeated. It must be so because every human being is doomed to die, which is the greatest of all failures. But if he can complete utter submission, if he can escape from his identity, if he can merge himself in the party so that he is the party, then he is all powerful and immortal. The second thing for you to realize is that power is power over other human beings, over the body, but above all over the mind. Power over matter, external reality, as you would call it, is not important. Already our control over matter is absolute. But how can you control matter? He burst out. You don't even control the climate or the law of gravity. And there are disease, pain, and death. O'Brien silenced him by a movement of his hand. We control matter because we control the mind. Reality is inside the skull. You will learn by degrees, Winston. There is nothing that we could not do. Invisibility, levitation, anything. I could float off this floor like a soap bubble if I wish. But I do not wish because the party does not wish it. You must get rid of these 19th century ideas about the laws of nature. We make the laws of nature. But you do not. You're not even masters of this planet. What about Eurasia and East Asia? You've not conquered them yet. Unimportant. We shall conquer them when it suits us. And if we did not, what difference would it make? We can shut them out of existence. Oceania is the world, but the world itself is only a speck of dust, and man is a tiny, helpless. How long has he been in existence? For millions of years, the earth was uninhabited? Nonsense. The earth is as old as we are, no older. How could it be older? Nothing exists except through human consciousness. But, Winston said, the rocks are full of bones of extinct animals, mammoths, mastodons, and enormous reptiles, which lived here long before man was ever heard of. Have you ever seen those bones, Winston? Of course not. 19th century biologists invented them. Before man, there was nothing. After man, if he could come to an end, there would be nothing. Outside man, there is nothing. But the whole universe is outside of us. Look at the stars. Some of them are millions of light years away. They are out of our reach forever. O'Brien indifferently said, "What are the stars?" "They are bits of fire a few kilometers away. We could reach them if we wanted, or we could blot them out. The earth is the center of the universe. The sun and the stars go round about it." For certain purposes, of course, that is not true. When we navigate the ocean, or when we predict an eclipse, we often find it convenient to assume that the earth goes round the sun, and that the stars are millions upon millions of kilometers away. But what of it? Do you suppose it is beyond us to create a dual system of astronomy? The stars can be near or distant, according as we need them. Do you suppose our mathematicians are unequal to that? Have you forgotten doublethink? The old civilizations claimed that they were founded on love or justice. Ours is founded upon hatred. In our world, there will be no emotion except for fear, rage, triumph, and self-abasement. Everything else we shall destroy. Everything. Already we are breaking down the habits of thought which have survived from before the revolution. We have cut the links between child and parent, between man, and between man and woman. No one dares trust a wife or a child or a friend any longer. But in the future, there will be no wives and no friends. Children will be taken from their mothers at birth as one takes eggs from a hen. The earthly paradise had been discredited at exactly the moment that it was realizable. Every new political theory, by whatever name it called itself, led back to the hierarchy and regimentation. And in the general hardening of outlook that set in round about 1930, practices which had long been abandoned, in some cases for hundreds of years, imprisonment without trial, the use of war prisoners as slaves, public executions, tortures to extract confessions, the use of hostages, and the deportation of whole populations not only became common again, but were tolerated and even defended by people who consider themselves enlightened and progressive. And remember that it is forever. The face will always be there to be stamped upon. The heretic, the enemy of society, will always be there so that he can be defeated and humiliated over again. Everything you have undergone since you have been in our hands, all that will continue, and worse. The espionage, the betrayals, the arrests, the tortures, the executions, the disappearances will never cease. It will be a world of terror as much as a world of triumph. The more the party is powerful, the less it will be tolerant. The weaker the opposition, the tighter the despotism. And there you have it. And tell me this is not what we see rising to power in many countries of the world. And that there's a gap, there's a vacuum, which the atheists and the nihilists, as it says in Albert Pike's vision of the destruction at the end of the age, where the Christians and the Muslims, the fanatical Zionists, that they all expend themselves in a war of controlled opposition, and that they slaughter themselves till there's no one but the nihilists and the atheists to step in and assume control. And this agenda, which I've been reading about for decades now, and which they have revealed in disclosure in so many manuscripts, texts, books, quotes, people speaking about these kind of things for a very long time, that these things have been kept secret, hoarded in knowledge. And so, unfortunately, realization and acknowledgement of what is the New World Order. It's been a slow process for humanity. And one that most have been largely ignorant. But we do sense a change in the world. We do sense a greater awakening, and we do sense a renewed possibility, which can go either way. I mean, we can have, which we know without a doubt that, the beast system, the Antichrist, these things are coming. They are on the horizon, that the Antichrist is in form even now. And that, Paul released and revealed that in 2 Thessalonians which again, for those that are not familiar with Scripture and that don't study it, that we have been told about these things. Let me share with you before we go to break. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. Finally, brethren, pray for us that the word of the Lord may have free course and be glorified, even as it is with you, and that we may be delivered from unreasonable and wicked men, for all men have not faith. But the Lord is faithful, who shall establish you and keep you from evil. And we have confidence in the Lord touching you, that you both do and will do the things which we command you. And the Lord direct your hearts into the love of God and into the patient waiting for Christ. Now we command you, brethren, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, that you withdraw yourselves from every brother that walketh disorderly, and not after the tradition which ye received of us. For yourselves know how ye ought to follow us. For we behaved not of ourselves disorderly among you, neither did we eat any man's bread for naught, but wrought with labor and travail night and day, that we might not be chargeable to any of you. Now, I had actually skipped over the chapter that I wanted to read, but all three of these chapters in this 2 Thessalonians is pertinent. But let me just read from verse 3 on. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things, and now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should perish, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. We're a few minutes out from break, so but when we return from the break, there's an article that I want to share with you. It's called Israel Hits Beirut with Nuclear Missile. Trump and Lebanese government confirm new infrared images from two different cameras without a doubt show an incoming missile after what was the supposed warehouse fire or fireworks, going off in the middle of Lebanon, the smoke rising, but that there was an atomic event, one that was captured in seismic Um, and also radiation had been detected. But that all of this, it's amazing to me how quickly truth is suppressed now and how fast the Facebook and YouTube and Google maneuver to eradicate it off of the web, to ban individuals and to strip content and to hide it so that people cannot find it, even when searching fervently. These are indeed strange times. And, again, as I said at the very beginning, reading the quote from 1984, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And so, even though there's censorship and people, like there are people that are losing their entire channels in speaking the truth, that are being messed with, their content eradicated, hidden, disappeared. Even us, we've been, we've had our numbers fidgeted with, and people unsubscribed all the time, even daily. And even with that, we are still growing, and our numbers are still continuing to increase slowly and not in the manner that would be truthful. But still, I mean, we know that people are discovering us and finding us, and that God is leading them to us for discernment on different topics. So many different topics. And I think that's one of the things which has kept us, somewhat protected, is that we do cover a wide array of topics, and that we are mostly uh, biblically themed with regard to the ancient manuscripts. And that even though there is um, there's a focus on truth and revealing and sharing it in a way that we do get challenged by the powers that be, at least we, are still allowed to share and to bring forth opinion, which we are very grateful for. And trust me, we count our blessings because, again, so many of our friends, so many of our colleagues have had their entire channels and years, even maybe a decade, now of work just completely eradicated. And then myself, we've been here on YouTube since 2007. I mean, that goes back quite a long time. There's a lot of hours of broadcasts, uploads, work gone into bringing you this information. And so we're very grateful for those of you that, in having discovered us, have reached out and become, many of you are now part of our family and part of our discourse our Digital Readers Club. We study with you, pray with you, laugh with you. All right, we'll be right back for second hour.
Many truth seekers are constantly studying alone. But there is a place where we can come together. The Digital Readers Club is our online ecclesia meant for those who've forsaken churchianity, but still want the closeness of a family to study with. Join us every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to put together the puzzle pieces of truth scattered throughout the ancient scriptures. Everyday questions arise.
Are the stories in the Bible true?
What if I told you that there are hundreds of confirming witnesses,
which give intricate detail to the stories in the Bible?
Have you ever found yourself deep in the rabbit hole with questions that no one seemed to have the answers to? Join us every other Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time for our Ask Me Anything series with author and researcher Zen Garcia, as he sheds light on the mysteries which have us all searching together.
Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world. Sacred Word Revealed
Comes to Atlanta, Georgia.
On September 11th to the 13th, 2020.
Purpose to reveal end-time mysteries.
To prepare the final generation,
We must don the full armor of God.
featuring Zen Garcia,
Dr. Joy Pugh,
Rob Skiba,
Gary Wayne,
Yana Ben Noon,
Stephen Benoon,
Dr. Stephen Pigeon,
Justin Garcia,
Laurel Austin,
Nathan Reynolds. Buy your tickets now at sacredwordrevealed.com.
Wayne or Dr. Joy, I think it's a great blessing that, both of them also come on once a month and take and answer any question that you might have. And you can submit multiple questions even. A lot of time, and I know, just myself included, there's a lot of people that doing the work that we do are extremely busy and extremely challenged when it comes to time and being able to share space with all of you in a manner where, you know, they are able to interact and to just, you know, share discussion or to entertain questions, those things that you would like to introspect upon. And so take advantage. If you have not, both Gary Wayne and Dr. Joy come on once a month with both my son and my daughter-in-law. Justin does the AMAs with Gary, and Joy does them with Dr. Joy. And then, you know, we do an AMA every other Friday here, myself, which we did one last Friday. So this week I'll have a little bit of a shorter week, which is good because I'm so busy. And just to give you a couple, again, updates on some of the stuff that I'm doing is I'm preparing the 3 presentations for the conferences, the Take on the World, and then also the upcoming End Time Mysteries Revealed, the Sacred Word Publishing Conference here in Atlanta, and which is in 3 weeks. I mean, September 11th. I mean, it's crazy how fast all this is approaching and coming up. But I will, after that time, I will get back to completing the Pre-Adamite Antediluvian World book, as well as the Dragon Lords, the Ancient Rulers. And then there's a couple other things I want to touch up on with regard to the Vestures of Light, the Rod of Wonder book. There's a couple things I want to clean up and add to there, and then hopefully I'll be able to move on to the work that Rob and I are hoping to do with regard to a movie on the Book of Enoch. And also, I want to write one which it will be completely unique about the life of Christ, and will include not only his conception and also his infancy and youth, but will cover what is revealed in the ascension of Isaiah, of his descent down through the 7 heavens and leaving the throne of the Most High God and entering into the womb of Mary. I mean, you know, and again, these are based upon manuscripts which are out there and available to read and study, but because most people completely either disregard them or are unknowledgeable about them, they have never been including in the storyline or the narrative. And how incredible would that be to take it all the way back, and then to add, you know, like portions of Christ's descent into Sheol, breaking open the doors of brass and the gates of iron. That's also another aspect of the story that is never told. And so, yeah, a lot of things. And I mean, there is so much additional information on literally so much of the stories of the lives of all the ancient patriarchs, the testimonies of all the prophets. And I mean, even the stories of, you know, the apostles that I had watched on YouTube an entire, I don't know how long it was, but it was the Book of Acts, and played out, and in revealing, and I thought it was so elaborately done and beautifully made. It was very deeply touching. But I was thinking about the stories that are contained in the Great Commission 1 and 2, which are excluded from the Book of Acts. Things even like with the Andrew and Matthias and going to the city of the man-eaters, and how those people would abduct travelers through their land, and gouging their eyes out, they would drug them and then fatten them up like cattle. And then at a certain time, in ceremony, they would bring out 7 of these individuals, and then slaughtering them, they would consume their bodies and drink their blood, which, is absolutely abominable. But that these individuals also, like is revealed in the book of Bel and the Dragon in the Apocrypha, that they literally worshipped a dragon-like creature and gave victim to it, fed it, took care of it, prayed to it, worshipped it. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about in the story of Bel and the Dragon, David, this is during the time when, he was appointed by the king there, Nebuchadnezzar, to be in power of the magicians. And that the king had showed him how there was a whole priesthood that worshipped this ancient dragon, the creature. And then Daniel said, "Oh, this thing is not a god." And then he fed it these cakes, which contain something of a nature which caused the dragon to explode from the inside out. I forget what Daniel had put into those cakes. I should share it with you, though. Some night when I have some time, I'm going to actually do that. I'll read the story of Bel and the Dragon. It's fascinating. And again, if you're not familiar, it's one of those things that ties into the city of the man-eaters. And this is a Book of Acts tale, which nobody really knows about or has looked into or studied. And it is absolutely amazing. So yeah, lots to do. And I never really considered, even working on or wanting to work on movie scripts. But having seen The Chosen, which, for those of you that follow the shows that I do with Rob, in fact, I'll be on with him later this evening, midnight to 2 a.m. It's going to be another long one, but we had talked about several weeks back this series that was crowdfunded that's available on YouTube, and there's 8 episodes, and they're crafting another season now, I do believe. But really, it was incredibly moving, and it was brought together in a way that is different than a lot of the stories of the life of Christ and the apostles and their witness and the things that they shared. And so again, it has given me some inspiration to reach out into other mediums for inspiration and sharing truth. All right, so I'm going to go into this article because, again, a lot of people don't know, may not be more familiar with the ulterior motive, the behind the scenes happenings of what went down in Lebanon. And so this was written by Gordon Duff. You can find it at a Veterans Today. It was released 2 days ago on August 10th. It also says Trump confirms this was a bombing, not an accident, and is immediately scourged by pro-Israel press, starting with the Daily Beast. So, breaking. Syrian President Assad orders all borders and ports in the country open to Lebanon, orders caravans of ambulances to head to Beirut and ferry injured to hospitals in Damascus, and launches an air bridge of medical and food supplies between the two cities. Absurdity squared. YouTube and Facebook fact checkers employed by the people, Veterans Today claims, staged the attack are wiping the evidence from the internet. Who would have guessed it? And certainly this has been my experience as well. And that it's difficult to find truth and to access it, even when you are searching directly for it. They are doing all they can to keep it hidden from you. All right, going into the story. This is the original video frame never posted anywhere that proves everything on Facebook and YouTube, which was taken down, is real. And I'll post in the chat room where you can go and pull up the article for yourself, and then you can look at the images that I am looking at. And you can see that in frame by frame, 6 seconds before the secondary explosion, which was, in my opinion, nuclear in some manner, that there's a missile or projectile or something of that nature entering into where all of the smoke excuse me, and the burning of whatever it was that, had exploded in the first, initially. And then if you look at the infrared, there's 3 images that show also the missile coming in and then the moment of impact. And again, even before I saw these images and having them as confirming witness, without a doubt, it's undeniable that something occurred, and that there was 2 aspects to the event of that day, and that the secondary explosion which rocked a huge part of the city of Beirut, leveling, I think it was something like 1/5 of the city, and then blowing out windows 20 kilometers distant from what is the epicenter of the devastation, and that this was registered on the Richter scale like a 3 to 4, as far as the earthquake, 4.0, 3.5, something of that nature, which is devastating, especially considered, that it is a missile or a bomb of some sort, and that this was an attack that was carried out covertly. It says here that the Israeli Delilah missile carrying a 6-kiloton, 6,000 tons of TNT equivalent nuclear missile they've said is a unique image and does not appear anywhere on the web. So again, I did post a link in the chat room, and you can see where the missile is coming in. There's 3 images, which I guess they were snapped very quickly because, missiles are accelerating at high speed, and for you to catch 3 instances of its declination to the actual site is pretty amazing. And so, quote, the first explosion was caused by a Gabriel anti-ship missile from Israel. The second explosion was caused by an Israeli Delilah missile from an F-16. I mean, can you imagine if this is one missile from an F-16? I mean, how many missiles would they have of such nature? And I mean, if you had just 5 airplanes loaded with 2 of these weapons each, they could devastate an entire country. Without a doubt. I mean, level large portions of it. And it continues, our country is in complete jeopardy with this lazy and corrupt regime. Then it has an image. This is the radiation signature of the explosion received from a source in Italy, submitted to Veterans Today by the International Atomic Energy Agency from the UN. Which that was the question that I had when Justin and I talked about this. I forget how, it's been like, what, a week? Just a week? That it went down last Wednesday? Or it was last Tuesday, a week and a day, yeah. That all this unfolded. And then we had Trump in a coronavirus, having a meeting with the press and being asked a question. He did state then that his generals had briefed him after this particular event went down that they had been, without a doubt, attacked. And certainly that was what it appeared to have been. Even without, any of the knowledge. I mean, this was hours after the event. I remember that it was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was still up and reading and looking at video analysis of the so-called, the ammonia nitrate exploding, and how that story was perpetuated quickly and maintained. But, again, that seems not to be the case. And now, for those that don't know, as far as veterans today, it is a portal for insiders, military intelligence, those that have connections, people that are tied to the alphabet agencies, and that release information to help others better understand and to realize what had gone down in the events. And they've been covering a lot of false flag events for a very long time. And so definitely one to be looked at if you're wanting, alternative perspective. If you're sick of the propaganda and you want truth in a way that is just not presented on the mainstream. If you want to cut to the chase and just ignore all the lies in the media. Continuing. A general in the Lebanese army reports that Israel dropped a tactical nuclear weapon on the port of Beirut today. He reports that this was done to collapse the current political regime there and revolt against Hezbollah. Their denial, almost identical to Israel's, supports this hypothesis. As the lies begin, nothing about this explosion, the mushroom cloud, or the strength of the explosion is fireworks, which was the first lie. Then the ammonium nitrate fertilizer, they say under 3,000 tons, which was stored for years to use on Lebanon's golf courses when they decided to build them. No, nothing about today is funny. We also add that earlier today, Netanyahu's statement, which we believe is Israel taking credit for the attack, Beirut is still bomb damaged by Israel from 2006. How you take Netanyahu's statements as outlined in the times of Israel today is a matter of faith, trust, or conjecture. In that post it says, Netanyahu said, "We'll do what is necessary in order to defend ourselves." Isn't it funny that he always says that? That's always the excuse. That's always that's always what they declare in defense. The weapon was 6 kilotons, that report now. Quote, getting reports from Beirut, a tactical miniature nuclear bomb has been used to attack the port. Nuclear experts and researchers have pointed out to the reacted particles in the fireball. Mystery explosion like a nuclear bomb tears through city with boom heard as far away as Cyprus. Even if there is going to be a government cover-up for peace and political implications, in the coming hours, one thing is clear. It is a clandestine operation by some anti-Lebanese foreign agencies and not by some random terrorists, which is exactly what we concluded as well in that particular day. That, like 9/11, even though they blamed it on Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden and the supposed 19 hijackers and the group of terrorists that, were able to pull this off with a satellite phone from a cave in Afghanistan. The official story is so bunk. Terrorists involved in urban warfare in ME do not have access to these highly advanced tactical weapons. If they have it now, then someone is equipping them for political gains. You see, again, it's the states. And I'm not talking the United States. I'm talking about governments, real and official governments that are not only arm the terrorists, but cause the real destruction. When they want to do real destruction, they always, arm the boogeyman and then allow the boogeyman to do it, and then they can declare war on the boogeyman, and then they can go in and save the day and gain access to whatever raw materials they're trying to steal from that particular country by invading. And of course, the first things that end up disappearing are the ancient artifacts held in museums and different places that are connected in some way to the descent of the fallen angels and to the high technology that had been created in very that had been created in very ancient times. As per my latest source of information from Beirut, there is going to be a government cover-up. The story about nitrate in the containers is going to be declared as the original cause of the second massive explosion that caused the major damage. This will become the official narrative in the mainstream media. In the same way that on 9/11, the story was that, these buildings went down from these so-called planes hitting them and the jet fuel burning. It's absolutely not true. But it was really interesting as well that in the very moments after the attacks of 9/11, that the first few interviews that went down, that already the people had the entire story of, oh, this is Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, and they hijacked 3 planes and flew them into the buildings, and yet this was something that the Pentagon had plotted and had plans for years prior, and yet again the boogeyman, blaming them, calling them terrorists, and then having the propaganda start up immediately after the attacks. Okay, continue. I just got a little bit more here. However, what influential and credible sources from Beirut are telling me is this, quote, the Beirut explosion is about 100 times the energy than the 2015 Tianjin explosion, or a 5.4 kilotons of TNT equivalent, using linear extrapolation from Tianjin, which involved 800 tons of ammonium nitrate. Conventional nukes against Japan had 15 to 21 kilotons. But this explosion is different. It is because of modern tactical nuke that contains up to 10 kilotons of the hybrid material, including uranium. It is this reason why we still have acid and radiation in the air. The storage facilities near the grain elevator are not marked for hazardous material storage, but are instead marked for general cargo. Therefore, you can guess at what will be fed in the coming hours. Yet Ali. And again, they have in the quote here, along with an image of the F-16 and the Delilah missile. The first explosion was caused by Gabriel anti-ship missile of Israel. The second explosion was caused by Israeli Delilah missile from an F-16. Our country is in complete jeopardy with this lazy and corrupt regime. Now, I would also add, especially for those that want to read or to study this, to always look at something with your own eyes. Trust your instincts. And don't ever believe what the government say and what the official narrative is. Hezbollah, we are told, is expected to retaliate against Israel, and they say there's no way for Syria not to be brought in. Jeff Smith of the IAEA confirms this is a nuclear explosion. The lies about fireworks and ships and fertilizer are what we always get You don't store either one downtown in a major city like Beirut under any circumstances. Not much farming in Beirut, and they don't celebrate the 4th of July there. The smoke could well be missile fuel, which may mean a missile storage facility was hit by Israel. We have confirmation from Israel that they were planning to attack Beirut 5 days ago in retaliation for Hezbollah's military attacks on the Golan, which were not reported anywhere. We are told Lebanon asked for nuclear investigators from Russia, but there's no attempt to protect the site, which, even if this were a modern clean weapon, there would still be radiation. Beirut governor calls explosion a national disaster akin to Hiroshima. Quote, a fire brigade of 10 people arrived at the scene. What happened is very similar to what happened in the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They drove to the scene and disappeared. This is a national disaster for Lebanon. We do not know how we are going to deal with this. Beirut Governor Marwan Aboud said, please remember Beirut. Everybody keep Lebanon in your prayers and thoughts. Many, many are dead, lots injured. The last report that I heard anyways was like the number was 200 dead and 4,000 injured. Something of that nature. I mean, just mind-blowing, mind-numbing. So unfortunate. I just can't imagine. Can't imagine what, citizens, civilians, wherever you may be in the world, to see and feel and hear something like that. Absolutely devastating. All right. Two explosions in Beirut, one a conventional guided bomb followed by a small nuclear weapon. The target is now confirmed to be a Hezbollah missile storage facility. One hospital in Beirut has said it is treating more than 500 injuries and is unable to receive any more patients. Tens of people injured will need surgery, and the hospital is appealing for blood donations. The red smoke made me suspicious. UDMH and RFNA, unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine, and red fuming nitric acid burn with a very distinct dark red smoke. And guess what? That stuff is commonly used as propellant for ballistic missiles. Again, I would add people to check out, read the article for yourself. This is the second explosion that looks like the plasma ball of a nuclear explosion to me. Note the white color indicating extremely high temperatures. No conventional explosion burns so hot. Also note the great height of the plasma ball. It is taller than the grain silo. Very strongly reminded of the nuking of Tianjin a few years ago. The warehouse to the east, he speaks of it in the black building shown in the video stills above. Here's another quote from Sky News on August 4th. A large explosion has been heard in the Lebanese capital Beirut. Security sources said a number of people were injured during the widespread destruction across the city, with residents reporting windows being blown out and ceilings collapsing. This smells like a cover story. I very much doubt there was any fireworks involved. The small explosions seen in the video were more likely to have been munitions cooking off due to fire staged by the first explosion. Russian Times has just covered the explosion and quotes a Lebanese government minister. Health Minister Hamad Hassan told local media that a ship carrying fireworks exploded in the port. Video footage lends weight to his explanation as it shows a small explosion, followed by the crackling of fireworks. Before a second and massively destructive blast. Local residents have shared images showing extreme damage to property. The office of the Daily Star newspaper was smashed by the blast with windows blown out and furniture flung to the ground. France 24 correspondent Lila Molana Allen said that her apartment was blown apart, adding that she thinks the blast was caused by a missile from a jet. It looks very much like the Lebanese have invented the ship full of fireworks stored to cover up the truth. Molana Allen is almost certainly correct that it was some kind of missile or guided bomb dropped by a jet fighter bomber. Or are they going with the one we have heard so many times before when tactical nukes have been used, that it was a store of explosives that went up? Of course, they would deny it was an attack. No one ever admits a nuke went off. It's territory. Bad for public opinion. Sodium nitrate, basically a big fertilizer bomb. Nope, not buying that at all. This is the cover story they appear to be going with, however. This local lady describes a feeling of melting that sounds like radiation hitting or being hit by radiation. Feels like heat. It burns you. Awareness. People in Beirut, Lebanon need to stay indoors due to the recent firework nuclear explosion that happened in Beirut. The smoke is filled with nitric acid, the red, pink, and purple smoke, which is toxic. And can form acidic rain. Women advocate Haiwa Afaru, August 4th. I don't agree with the assessment that it was a fine particulate explosion. That wouldn't explain the white hot plasma ball. Only a nuke can explain that. The media in the West are claiming that this massive nuclear-like explosion is from fireworks. But Gordon puts no the hell. It was not. Windows blown out 7 kilometers away indicate a huge blast, again suggesting this was indeed a nuke. The phone's going down is probably due to the EM pulse that the nukes produce. I just skip a few comments. There are a lot of casualties, probably mostly due to flying glass and debris. The aftermath of the massive explosions that ripped through the Lebanese capital of Beirut. You can find that in the RT Times. All right. And that's the article. And if you go there, you know, the veterans today, you can find a lot of commentary, and you can find other parallels, other connections to this particular story. Now, let me just say that it's not, you know, I'm not pointing the finger at Israel. I shared with you this article, but I am not putting the blame on anybody. I do not know if even this, what is alternative truth, is indeed reliable, even though I have found veterans today to be on the know and to have insider information which can confirm truth in the manner that it goes down usually. But, you know, again, nobody knows with 100% certainty. But at least this will give you an idea. And so, CHA in the chat room says, wasn't it weird that things were crumbled and not burned from the explosion? Isn't a lot of heat associated with a nuclear blast? I do believe so. We see that, in what we have in the white sands in the desert is that the sand, the heat of the blast fused the sand and created glass. And this is something that they were extremely weird and uncertain about, and especially as it connects to in the sub-Sahara, that there's this yellow glass which people take to be, something that perhaps had fallen from the firmament, is what they say, Again, I don't know with any certainty. And so the thing is to not believe, especially what government tells you, especially what mainstream news is telling you, especially what is the official story for writing off event. Trust your eyes, trust your own senses, and then go and seek for more truth. Knock, seek, and ye shall find. And that's just simply the way of it. And my goodness, we've already arrived at the end of the show. A lot of really good commentary, a lot of really incredible things being said in the chat room. I greatly appreciate all of you and the respect and the courtesy you are showing to each other. I do consider you as an audience to be widely and very intelligent when it comes to alternative perspective. Yeah, you guys and gals, ladies and gentlemen, are without a doubt the keepers of the secrets for the upcoming generation. You are the watchmen and watchwomen. It's up to you, it's up to me to sound the trumpet, to help people to better understand what we're contending with in these times. Because, again, things are strange and will get weirder yet. That's almost a certainty. But in the scriptures it said that, this day, it has never been this bad and will never be again as we approach the time of the end. Which I do, without a doubt, believe that we are living that generation, the fig tree generation, and that all these things are unfolding. The wars, the rumors of wars, the earthquake in diverse places, the waves in the seas roaring. Beware that no man deceive you. Yeah, this is all it. All right, everybody, we will be back at midnight tonight. Those of you that maybe Pacific, West Coast or whatever, if you can join us, please do so. Unfortunately, I'll be East Coast and it will be midnight to 2 a.m. So I'm gonna try hard to keep it together and to stay awake for the broadcast, but we will catch you then, and God bless all of you. Shalom.
Thank you everybody for joining us for this video and this broadcast. We appreciate all of you and thank you for your patronage. Please do like and subscribe and share with your friends. God bless all of you in your seeking.